Hello, welcome to the Wellsprings Journal Podcast. My name is Reverend Neelley Hicks, and I'm excited to be interviewing Reverend Dr. HiRho Park, who is the Executive Director of Professional Development and the UMC Cyber Campus. So we're going to be talking today about the history of Wellsprings Journal Podcast and also a few other issues that you'll find very interesting. So since this is our first video of this type, and HiRho, you are the one who is responsible for the Wellsprings Journal and the podcast, I want to start by asking a little bit about the history of Wellsprings Journal and its purpose. So I want to hear, when did this start and who helped start it and what was its purpose?
Thank you, Neelley. The Wellsprings Journal is the voice of United Methodist Clergywomen. The United Methodist Church granted full clergy rights for women in 1956. As time went by, there was a need for a forum for clergywomen's collective experience and emerging stories as women in ministry. Bishop Leontine Kelly, who was the first African-American woman bishop in the United Methodist Church, invited clergywomen in the hope that the journal will make connections, create imaginations, exchange knowledge and ideas, nurture liturgical creativity, share pain and joys, advocate for women, and seek authentic expressions of spirituality. The General Board of Higher Education and Ministry published the first Wellsprings Journal in 1988.
So I'm really excited about being a clergywoman in the United Methodist Church because when I hear that the United Methodist Church accepted the role of women in ordination in the 1950s, I think, wow, we're ahead of some other faith traditions. And this is a bold move for the church. So how do you see Wellsprings Journal evolving through the years in the voices that have been presented? How do you feel that it has evolved?
Yes. As you said, in 1956, there were only 27 Methodist clergywomen who received full clergy rights. By 2016, the number of United Methodist clergywomen had grown to about 27% of a total of 55,000 United Methodist clergy.
Wow.
The number of lead women pastors serving churches with a membership of 1,000 or more has grown to 137 clergywomen as of 2012, compared to 64 in 2008. This is 114% growth within just 4 years. In 2006, United Methodist clergywomen celebrated the 50th anniversary of full clergy rights for women in the Methodist tradition. The General Board of Higher Education and Ministry organized the celebration in Chicago, Illinois. Mm-hmm. During our gathering in 2016, we celebrated 60 years of full clergy rights for women in the Methodist tradition and 20 years of ordained deacons in United Methodism. Ordained deacons in the United Methodist Church are ordained to a ministry of word, service, compassion, and justice, and their ministry focuses on connecting the church to the society. Meanwhile, the United Methodist Church was becoming a worldwide church. In 1980, United Methodist Church elected the first woman bishop, Bishop Marjorie Matthews. In 2005, we elected the first German woman bishop, Bishop Rosemary banner. In 2008, the United Methodist Church elected the first African woman bishop, Bishop Joaquina Nanala, in Mozambique. Now we have 17 active women bishops and 13 retired women bishops. The Wellsprings Journal became the space for women to affirm our diversity and engender dreams, transformations, and a division of wholeness in the church. In 2010, we switched the journal to an online format. In 2018, last year, we decided to publish the journal as a podcast so that clergywomen will be able to have easier access to it in their busy lives. For example, clergywomen spend a lot of time in the car visiting members of the church. Now they can listen to the Wellsprings Journal as they drive.
Yes, yes. I love it. And I want to mention I'm a deacon in the United Methodist
Right.
Church. And I'm also a clergywoman. So it's it's really beautiful to see how the church is integrating like all of these facets of ministry together, and women are automatically woven through the texture and fabric of the church. So I want to focus on the Wellsprings Journal and like how does it get done? How do you actually select the contributors?
The Wellsprings Journal has an editorial circle. The members of the editorial circle are diverse regarding their age, experience, clergy status, race, and ethnicity. We meet periodically and recommend names of clergywomen who may contribute in certain areas of ministry, such as theological reflection, sermons, women's leadership style, creative art, young clergywomen's experience, and the highlight of ministry resources.
Excellent, excellent. So there's the different topics that are focused on as you select the contributors. So when clergy women read these journal entries or listen to the podcast episodes, what thoughts and feelings do you want them to come away with?
As an editor of the journal, I want not only clergywomen, but also the general public to read and listen to the depth of United Methodist clergywomen's spirituality, theological scholarship, diverse experiences in life, and their passion and love for joining the ministry of Jesus Christ. Therefore, the world may affirm the leadership of women in the church and religion.
Yes, yes, that's beautiful. And I find that it's so important too for us to just notice how many themes are relatable, based on where we come from and what experiences we've had. And so these journal entries and podcasts always seem to resonate, I think, with a variety of people, whether they're United Methodist or Episcopal or whatever faith tradition. I think that we all feel that we can come closer to God through these stories of triumph and stories of great challenges. So I want to turn now to focus on the 2016 issue, of which the theme is birthing a worldwide church. And I want to move more specifically into your journal entry, which is called Imagine Strong and Prophetic Leadership. So the theme for 2016 was birthing a worldwide church. How is that message still relevant 3 years later?
As I mentioned earlier, The United Methodist Church is a worldwide church. We have churches in Africa, Asia, Europe, and Eurasia, and Latin America. We have 12.5 million members around the world. In 2016, about 450 United Methodist clergywomen from 27 countries celebrated 60 years of full clergy rights for women in the Methodist tradition and 20 years of ordained deacons in United Methodism. So we as a church is still learning to birth a worldwide church with geographical, theological, and cultural differences. The 2016 United Methodist Clergywomen's Gathering encouraged United Methodist clergywomen to learn from each other's ministry, an opportunity to envision, articulate, and participate in leading the worldwide church as women clergy. I believe that the effort of birthing a worldwide church is an ongoing task of the United Methodist Church.
So true. Birthing it seems almost cyclical, doesn't it? Like there's birthing and then there's labor again. There's the great expectations and then this new birth. And so you authored the first entry, which is called Imagine Strong and Prophetic Leadership, in advance of a 2-day gathering of United Methodist clergywomen. What were some of the objectives of that meeting?
The number one objective was to learn from each other as clergywomen from a variety of ministry settings and locations. We also wanted to build international relationships, therefore to consider future models of developing communities of global Christian discipleship. We also targeted to strengthen the network of global Methodist women leaders and United Methodist clergywomen as partners in church leadership.
So how do you think we're doing 3 years later?
I think we are doing a great job. The good news is the younger women are interested in ordained ministry. The young clergywomen's number is growing. About 40% of clergy under 35 are women.
That's wonderful to hear that we've got that younger generation coming through. So we're at a particular point in the history of the United Methodist Church and worldwide Methodism where we are now faced with a special general conference coming up in February of this year. And I want to hear your thoughts on this particular conference and what the role of women may be in this conference.
Let me share with you a little more about how we have advanced within just 3 years as a denomination. In 2016, we elected 7 more women bishops, including 4 African American women bishops. So now we have a more diverse group of active women bishops, including 2 Hispanic Latina and 1 African woman bishop. Since 2016, 350 United Methodist clergywomen of Africa and 150 Filipina United Methodist clergywomen gathered in 2018 to affirm women's leadership in the church and society and to seek gender justice and equity within the church system. There will be 2 US-based Southeast and South Central Regional Leadership Development Conferences of United Methodist clergywomen in 2019. So For me, the main question is, how can we as a church focus on serving humanity by honoring differences in theological, cultural, and ethical understandings? According to Pankaj Ghemawat, the laws of globalization, when we overestimate globalization, we tend to underestimate the importance of local needs. When we underestimate globalization, we tend to turn to protectionism. So here, the balance is the key. I believe that United Methodist Church is in the juncture of a structural change, learning how we love one another as Christ has loved us, yet affirming our connectionalism, which has created a robust United Methodist culture, which has enhanced diversity and mobility in the mission since the 18th century.
You talked about protectionism, and I think that that is a really interesting term when we look at any institution that is experiencing birthing pangs. We experience them, and then sometimes, we want to retract from any kind of pain. So what is your hope for this general conference and the way that people will relate to one another and communicate with one another in the midst of these differences of theological opinions?
Well, as women, as a clergywomen of United Methodist Church, we came a long way.
Yes.
However, we still have many challenges regarding equity, justice, and balance of power. And that is the truth for the special general conference. So we as a church still did not elect an Asian woman bishop nor a Native American woman bishop. We need to keep asking who is not on the table, who has not been served. Recently, the General Board of Higher Education and Ministry is advocating women coaching women. I believe that when women peer coach each other, we can not only imagine strong and prophetic leadership for the church, but also take actions to implement those dreams for younger generations of women.
So, what do you have a peer coaching program?
Yes, Women Coaching Women program.
So, could you say a bit more? Like, if someone wanted to become involved in that, either as a coach or as a mentor, where would they go?
Well, we have an online application process at UMC Cyber Campus, and you can apply throughout the year for the online program.
So many times when we think about prayer, we use it in a way where we think, oh, it's just a small thing. But in all honesty, I mean, what greater act can we do or participate in other than one that brings us into contact with God and then bring those who we love and are caring for into that sacred space? So, what should we be praying for as United Methodist clergywomen?
I would say we still need to pray for the unity in the church. Psalm 133 and verse 1 says, "How very good and pleasant it is when God's people live together in unity." As a clergywomen, we've been offering insights and stories that call the United Methodist Church to the unity of spirit all the time, all these years. So that is my prayer, that we will pray for the unity of the church as we navigate all these changes.
HiRho, I really appreciate you taking part in this interview, the first interview in the Wellsprings Journal podcast. And I just want to offer you a chance to say any final closing words.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to share the great ministry that United Methodist Clergywomen are doing around the world. Thank you again.
Finally, I'd like to thank all of our Wellsprings Journal readers and podcast listeners. We hope that you will subscribe to the podcast on your favorite podcast station. We hope that you will share wellspringsjournal.org with your friends and those who you feel will be inspired by these strong and amazing stories. Thank you.